everybody? Hey, what's up everybody? It's your girl Hope Dreamer. I'm back with another video, and for this video I wanted to kind of just give a short explanation on how I draw and how I do certain things, because I figured some people might be curious about my art style. So let's get into it. So the first thing that I do is mostly I kind of just start out with the sketch. The sketch kind of gives me a basic idea on what I'm going to be drawing, and kind of just lets me get my ideas from my brain onto like my workspace, and helps me kind of visualize what I want to do. It's a kind of an important part of the process, and it's also really fun because you can try out different ideas, and if you don't like them, you can always just erase and start again. In the line art phase, it's going to be a lot harder to do that. So the sketch, but you have to remember that the sketch is always just a reference. You don't have to follow everything exactly to the T when you're doing the line art. You can change up a few things here and there. You just got to remember that the sketch is just that. It's just a sketch. So you can always like change it or change certain aspects, but you want to try and get a visual idea of what you want to do before you start doing the line art. The line art part is where it gets actually pretty hard. I use a 5.2 pen to do my line art because it's a lot easier for me to kind of get the small details in with that. I just do very light strokes with my pen. For the line art, I try to apply different parts of pressure to different parts of the artwork. For the hair, I try to do very light strokes to keep to give the hair sort of like a flowy texture and make it look softer. And you want to be careful about this because sometimes the fill bucket, I've been having problems with the fill bucket, like kind of just doesn't get certain lines because they're too thin. So after you're finished with your line art, you want to try and go in again and fill in areas that that just have like a few pixels in between them, because the fill bucket might not register it. And as for my art program, I forgot to mention this during the beginning, but I do most of my work on Firealpaca because it's free and it's always been my go-to program. There's a lot of ways you can customize the workspace, and it's just a free, good program that has a lot of brushes coming out every week that are useful in my day-to-day workflow. After that, I will go to layers, and I will go I would go to the view, and I would go all the way down to where it says transparent background. I would turn that off, and then it would just show me a white background. I would go to background color, and I would set it to kind of this orangish color. This just kind of helps me, if I'm working with lighter colors, it helps me kind of distinguish what's colored and what's not, and then I begin kind of just filling in the colors and checking in the smaller spaces to make sure every pixel is properly colored. And after that, I'd begin kind of I would either start the background and kind of get that so I have a general idea of what the lighting is going to be and what I want to do for the background. And once I finish that, I usually start coloring, because then I have a general idea of the lighting and how I would want to shade it. For the most part, my style is never consistent, but I do usually, for the skin, I always start with the skin. That's one thing that's consistently, I always shade with the oranges and reddish tones because the skin has a lot of warmth, and those are warm colors. I usually shade with the warmer colors because it just kind of helps. It just kind of looks good to me, and that's always how I've done it. And I always, this is more of just a me thing, but I always liked putting down very pale colors for the skin and trying to shade over it so I can add a lot of depth. For the hair, I try to use softer brushes and a fade brush because I find that that works best for me and in what I'm trying to do. And the hair is very experimental. There's never a piece where I do the same thing for the hair, but for the most part, I try a multitude of things with hair every time I draw, and whatever looks good in the moment is the thing I go with. But yeah, I don't do for most artists, they usually stick to like cell shading or soft shading for the hair. I tried to do a mixture of both because the hair can look soft in some places and have harder shadows in others. So that's usually what I go for. I'm not really good at explaining how I do hair since I do it different every time. I also do watch tutorials on YouTube to try and improve my style, so that's why it's consistently changing. For the clothing, I use a fade brush to kind of get that soft, just kind of shade the wrinkles and shade it in a soft way, and then I take the mix brush and I kind of go over that so it looks softer. I try to make the fabric in general look very flowy while still sticking to the proportions that I determined in the sketch and in the line art, because there's one thing I learned about like clothing, it's very unrestrictive, but I've always and also on certain points it's going to wrinkle more than the others, and it also depends on a lot of factors, like if the clothing is like how it's structured, like a sweater or for the shoulder sweater would have a lot of gravitational pull around the shoulder that it's secured on. So I just try to kind of follow basic logic when coloring the clothing and shading it. And then I do the eyes. The eyes for the most part is kind of basic. I do the pupil, and then I draw the basic shades on different multiplication layers. The eyes, out of all of my drawings, it has the most layers because I try to make them as detailed as possible. And then I take a so I kind of layer down the darker colors before I start doing the lighter colors. Once I establish all of my darker colors, I go in with a lighter color, usually yellows or light blues or even pinks. It's really self-determined on the eye color itself. With a green eye color, I would use a yellow or a lightish blue. For blue eyes, I would use a light blue, and for reds, I would also use a yellow or a light pink. This just kind of works for me, and I don't know what works for you, so I'm just going to leave it up to you to decide what you want to do. And afterwards, there's a brush that is that is really helpful in Firealpaca. That's called particles. So I click on particles, I kind of turn down the initial brush size, which is going to be 150. I turn it down a bit. The scatter strength I put at 32, the particle size I put at 5, the particle random I put at 100, I put on rotate along. Rotate ankle is 0, rotate random is 100. I do turn on apply foreground color, the color jitter is 40, and the hue jitter is 0. Those are just the settings that I use for it, and it usually works best for me. And I just push it along. Once I'm done adding the lighter shades with the airbrush, I usually just put it on the bottom half of the eye, just to kind of give it that glitter. And then I go to coloring my line art. Coloring my line art is something that I've started doing in like the last year or so I'm not the best at it, but I try to follow the shade that I applied when I was shading to the line art. I put down a base color for everything, and then I apply layers on that and start coloring. You want to put on Protect Alpha on every layer that has the base coloring, and then you can put you can add another layer and clip it so it does not go anywhere outside of the line. It's very, very helpful. And after I color and everything, I do the eye liner, which I take an airbrush and I protect the alpha, clip a layer to it, add as the blending mode, and I take an airbrush and I very lightly shade just the edges of I take the color of the eyes and the base color of the eyes, and I just gently brush the sides of the eyelashes, and then I once again take the particle brush, put it on lower the brush size, and just sprinkle a bit of particles on the edges of the eyelashes because I think it looks nice. Then I follow as closely as I can with the blending on the actual eyeline art to make it look nice. And that's about what explains my process. It's more of just a process that I've kind of tried to build, and it works for me and it might work for you too, but I just thought I'd give a basic explanation. But then again, my style is always changing, and the more I draw, the more I see different things of doing certain aspects of the drawing. So yeah, I just wanted to give a basic rundown. In the background, it is not my character, it is Hopeless Peach's character. I thought of drawing a gift for her because I really like her content, and I think she's a nice person overall. So I thought, why not just draw a gift for her and explain my process of drawing while I'm doing it. Speeding up this drawing was well, I can't swear. It was very, like, trying to speed up and edit this drawing was giving me just a headache because it was just I didn't want to make it look too rushed because sometimes that can give people a headache because I zoom in and I zoom out a lot in my work. But I managed. So I hope you enjoy this video. Hope this helps anyone who's trying to find a certain way of drawing or doing things. Anyways, that should be the end of the speed paint soon. So I'm going to end the voice recording here. So I hope you have a great day, week, month, and I will see you later, dreamers, and have a great day.